Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into some really powerful insights from a source called Slay Like a Mother, How to Destroy What's Holding You Back so you can live the life you want. Our goal here, our mission for this deep dive is really to explore self-doubt, particularly how it hits women and maybe especially mothers. We want to understand its, disguises and crucially find practical ways to beat it so you can live a more authentic, joyful life. Now, the book does focus a lot on women and moms, but honestly, the stuff about self-doubt and the tools, that's pretty universal. It'll resonate with anyone trying to be more real. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get into it.
Yeah, what's really interesting is how the author weaves her own story into this much bigger picture. She uses research, anecdotes that are just so relatable to show how self-doubt is like this dragon that so many of us fight without even realizing it. And you'll see it cuts across cultures, different life situations, not just parenting.
Okay, so let's start right there with her own story. She says she was a card-carrying member of the Self-Doubt Club. This is despite, outward success, fancy titles, even being on the Today Show. What was underneath all that?
Well, she traces it way back to childhood. She describes herself as being born with an extra dose of sensitivity. And this isn't just like a feeling. It's a trait called sensory processing sensitivity, SPS. Dr. Elaine Aron, a clinical psychologist, says it affects maybe 20% of people.
20%.
Yeah. And this sensitivity, it made her super responsive to her environment, social cues, everything. So really early on, she learned to just watch people try to figure out how to avoid causing pain, which led straight to people-pleasing.
So that sensitivity kind of wired her to navigate the world in a specific way. And it sounds like her first heartbreak was a huge turning point. Like that's where conditional love really came in.
Definitely. That first real heartbreak, it left a deep mark. Instead of facing that pain, she basically tried to outrun it. Her self-worth got completely tangled up in what other people thought of her. Rejection felt like the end of the world.
Oof.
Yeah. So rather than share that, be vulnerable, she just kind of swallowed it. And her default became setting some overly ambitious goal and hustling hard to achieve it, no matter the cost. She even mentions this led to some pretty defiant, kind of dangerous behavior as a teen, just this desperate search for love, but looking in the wrong places.
And that's when she brings in this metaphor, right? The dragon of self-doubt. It makes a lot of sense. But how does becoming a mother specifically feed this dragon? What's unique there?
Well, when she became a new working mom, everything changed. That whole facade she'd built, it just crumbled. Impossible to keep up. At first, she found some validation online in those early mommy blogs. But later, her research showed something really striking. Mothers in 17 different countries, Berlin, Paris, Korea, Shanghai, all over, they all admitted to these depth doubts, feeling like bad mothers or like they always needed to do more.
Always needing to do more.
Right. And yet on the outside, they were projecting this image of having everything under control. She nails it down as the perfect mom paradox.
That phrase, perfect mom paradox, it just sounds exhausting. So if that's why your soul is so tired, like the author says, how did this dragon actually show up day to day?
Oh, it's sneaky. One of the biggest ways is through negative self-talk. You know, that little voice, that internal soundtrack of thoughts. Apparently, the National Science Foundation found the average person has like 20,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day.
60,000, that's a lot.
It is. And get this, 80% of them tend to be negative. 80%. The author describes her own inner voice as just cruel, condescending, hurtful, vicious, ugly, relentless, and bullying.
Wow. And it's not just noise, right? It's what we absorb from that. What's the actual impact of that kind of mean self-talk, especially like physically?
She makes a really powerful comparison. She points out how some studies suggest negative vibrations can affect water, even rice grains. So imagine what that constant negativity is doing to us, since our bodies are about 60% water.
Huh. Never thought of it quite like that.
Right. And our brains, they don't really distinguish between, what's real and what's just hypothetical stress from our thoughts. It still triggers physical stuff. Blood pressure spikes, heart rate goes up, which leads to a really good question. If you wouldn't let anyone else talk to you that way, why do we let ourselves do it?
That's a serious gut check.
Yeah.
Okay, another way this dragon shows up is wearing a mask. Or maybe posturing. What's the difference there? Why do we do that?
Good question. Posturing is more like putting on a bit of makeup. Minor edits, to seem a little better. Most people probably do that sometimes. But wearing a mask, that's different. That's heavier. It's when you hide that brokenness to be liked, loved, accepted, or admired because deep down you believe you're nowhere near enough on the inside. but you project more than enough on the outside. The author's really honest about clinging to her own mask for, like, 2 decades, just constantly seeking external validation because, as she puts it, love was nowhere to be found inside me.
That's rough.
And the problem is, any love or approval you get for the fake you, well, she says it's valued at only slightly more than worthless. It doesn't actually fill that void. It just keeps you trapped.
Man. Okay, the source also mentions making assumptions about other mothers. How does that play into this? How does that feed the dragon?
Oh, big time. When we look at another mom and assume she's just fabulous and automatically conclude we're crap in comparison, well, we start questioning her motives, creating these optical delusions, as the author calls them.
Optical delusions.
Yeah. It reminds me of Don Miguel Ruiz saying, we confuse our perception with the truth. Our self-doubt acts like a filter, magnifying their strengths and our flaws. And all that does is help the dragon keep its grip while we just keep collecting evidence that you're unworthy of love, respect, and pats on the back. It becomes this loop.
A self-fulfilling prophecy of not being good enough. Okay, and the last one you mentioned, the inability to say no, that people-pleasing thing. Why is it so hard to just stop giving away our time and energy?
Well, often it isn't really about pure generosity. It's more of a deep-seated concern about letting others down. Maybe that comes from past disappointments, perhaps with parents or other important figures.
Right.
And let's be honest, society kind of praises women who seem to do it all. The author actually calls it an addiction to pleasing. Hearing someone say you excel in that role, that gives you that hit of validation you're craving. There's this story about Amelia in the book.
Yeah.
She pushed herself so incredibly hard to prove she was independent, basically living out her mother's fear-based advice, that she ended up blacking out from a heart condition. That was her wake-up call. It literally forced her to learn how to say no.
Whoa, that's intense. But okay, it makes sense how all these things connect. So we've met the dragon, we see its tricks. How do we actually start to, slay it? The source mentions Portia Nelson's autobiography in 5 short chapters. How did that help illustrate the path forward?
It's such a great little piece. It shows this progression, right? First, you keep falling into the same deep hole over and over. That's like being unaware, blaming circumstances or others. Then maybe you see the hole but still fall in. Then you walk around the hole, and finally the goal is walking down a different street altogether.
Ah, okay.
It really captures that shift from being a hopeless wandering victim to taking charge, taking agency, and starting to be guided by things like gratitude and self-compassion instead of just fear. It's about consciously breaking those old destructive patterns.
So it's fundamentally about shifting from looking outside for validation to building it inside, cultivating self-love. How does the author suggest we actually do that?
She uses another great metaphor, a massive tree standing in the forest. Our roots. They need to be nourished by positive self-talk. Things like, I'm worthy of love. Genuine self-acceptance. When those roots are strong, our branches, our behaviors, how we interact with the world become strong too, strong enough to support others even. It boils down to recognizing that at the end of the day, your opinion of yourself is the one that truly matters. When you're solid inside, you can weather the storms outside much better.
That makes sense. And this connects to something else important, the difference Brene Brown talks about between guilt and shame.
Yeah.
I did something bad versus I am bad. Why is that distinction so critical, especially for mothers?
Oh, it's huge. Absolutely critical, because guilt, feeling bad about an action, that can actually motivate positive change. Okay, I messed up. I'll do better next time. That's constructive.
Right.
But shame. Shame is about your core identity. I am bad. I never will be good enough. That just leads to self-loathing, paralysis. It's incredibly destructive. The author points out that many mothers feel deep shame, but they call it guilt. And by doing that, they unknowingly keep feeding the dragon, keep sabotaging themselves.
So recognizing that difference is the first step.
Exactly. Real healing starts when you can actually acknowledge how cruel your self-talk is and consciously decide to separate your actions, your mistakes, from your fundamental worth as a person.
Okay, so understanding that is key. What about practical tools? What does the author offer to help people actually start slaying and taking back control?
She offers several really concrete things. First, gratitude. She suggests a simple ritual, like the peek and pit exercise at bedtime with kids. Everyone shares the best part of their day, the peak, and the worst part, the pit.
Peek and pit, I like that.
Yeah. It helps normalize that life has ups and downs, helps you acknowledge the tough stuff without judgment, all while reinforcing connection and feeling loved. It makes talking about struggles less scary.
Okay, what else?
Second, self-compassion. This is about actively talking to yourself differently. Repeating phrases like, I am so much more than this situation, especially when you feel judged or just overwhelmed. It's a conscious reminder that you're a human being, not a human
A
doing,
human being, not a human doing. That's powerful.
isn't it? Third is honesty, like
Yeah.
radical honesty. X-ray style honesty, she calls it. There's an example of a woman named Marty who posted on Facebook basically taking off the mask and sharing the real struggles behind her seemingly perfect life.
And what happened?
It was amazing. It resonated so deeply. It inspired others to be vulnerable too, and it created real connection. It showed the power of ditching the facade.
Mhm.
And finally, meditation.
Meditation. Not always easy.
Right, and she clarifies it's not about trying to empty your mind, which feels impossible for most of us. It's about developing a clean mind in the midst of a very full plate, like training your brain. She suggests visualizations, like imagining yourself as the deep, stoic, calm ocean, while life's chaos is just the wind and waves on the surface. They don't affect the deep calm. Or seeing thoughts like trucks passing by on a highway. Just observe them. Don't jump in and ride along with every single one.
Okay, those are tangible tools. Gratitude, self-compassion, honesty, meditation. Beyond those you mentioned, there's a call to redefine success.
Exactly. Moving away from needing external pats on the back, external approval, as your main measure of success. Instead, you define it internally. What does success truly mean to you? For the author, it stopped being just about career stuff and became more about making the lives of mothers easier.
So creating your own blueprint.
Yes. Because when you have that personal definition, your daily choices start to align with what you actually want. And suddenly, having it all doesn't seem like this impossible external standard, but something genuinely achievable on your own terms.
Interesting. And there's this other element she mentions, synchronicity. Sounds a bit
Oh,
magical.
yeah, she touches on that. It's this idea that when you really start living in alignment with your true self, your true desires, the universe kind of responds. It sends signs of support.
Like what kind of science?
Could be anything, really. Finding the perfect babysitter right when you need one. Hearing specific song lyrics that just hit home. She mentions wide open spaces or don't stop believin' popping up at meaningful times. It's
Ah,
like these little winks from the universe reinforcing that you're not alone, that you're moving in the right direction.
okay, so it's like a feedback loop. You align yourself, and the world reflects that back somehow.
Hmm.
So slaying this dragon, it's clearly transformative personally. But what about the ripple effect? How does this impact others, kids, community?
Oh, the ripple effect is huge. It's contagious, really. There was a study she cites, a 2008 British Medical Journal study that found when one person becomes happier, their nearby friends have a 25% higher chance of becoming happier too.
25%.
Yeah. And next door neighbors, a 34% increase.
Yeah.
Happiness spreads. And there's a story in the book about Lisa. As her own confidence grew, it didn't just affect her daughter and her husband, it inspired her employees too. It actually led her to create this amazing program at her company to help former prisoners get back on their feet.
Wow. So your internal shift genuinely changes the external world.
Yeah, absolutely. Your growth empowers others.
That's incredible. Which brings us to parenting. If we slay our dragons, how do we help our kids slay theirs? That feels like a really critical piece.
It really is. And the first, maybe most crucial thing is understanding that kids are not responsible for our happiness. Putting that burden on them, that duty, turns them into what the author calls emotional mules, carrying our stuff for us.
Emotional mules.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. Okay, so what's the alternative?
You have to let them struggle sometimes. Allow them to self-soothe, to figure some things out on their own. That's how they build their own resilience, their own dragon-slaying muscles.
Right. And that means as parents, we need to get better at knowing when to shut up and listen instead of always jumping in to fix things.
Exactly right. There's another story about Ellie, who was so scared of her daughter having self-doubt that she'd shut down conversations about it instead of just listening and empathizing. Our kids are always watching and learning.
They see everything.
Everything. They learn more from our actions than our words. When you make a tough choice, like saying no to your boss so you can go on that field trip, or when they see you look in the mirror and actually seem to like what you see, or even when you mess up and genuinely apologize,
Yeah.
you're teaching them profound lessons about priorities, about self-acceptance, about taking responsibility. You're modeling in real time how to face your own fears, how to stand up to that inner critic, how to eventually kick their fire-breathing dragon to the curb.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've unpacked here. From understanding just how deep the perfect mom paradox runs to seeing all the clever disguises of that self-doubt dragon, the negative talk, the masks, the people-pleasing, the worry, and then getting these really practical, powerful tools. Self-compassion, honesty, meditation, ways to actually slay it.
Yeah, and if you zoom out, look at the bigger picture, it's really about this fundamental shift, moving from constantly reacting to all the external noise and pressure to learning how to respond from a place of solid inner self-worth. It lets you become that calm eye in your own storm. And when you do that, you can't help but inspire this ripple effect of well-being in your family, your community, maybe even across generations.
So for everyone listening, what does this really mean for you? Maybe consider this. The sword suggests that the dragon of self-doubt is actually you. So slaying it isn't about violence or destruction. It's about preserving, protecting, and honoring your true self. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is maybe to ask yourself, what could my life look like if I stopped fighting gravity? If I stopped trying to be perfect and just, accepted the beautiful, messy, flawed, wonderful human being I actually am? Because the book suggests, and maybe life shows us, that when you finally do that, the universe and the people in it tend to show up in amazing ways to support the real you.